for the loss of her friends, the publisher of the books of Mr. Roy, who was attacked, as we mentioned before, this weekend and hacked to death. Rafida Bana.
Thank you, Professor Rosenthal. Let me also thank UNESCO and Lithuania for inviting me to highlight the unthinkably horrific stories of impunity in Bangladesh. And this is all happening in front of our eyes right now, in the broad daylight, in these modern days of 21st century. 2 days ago, this weekend, on Saturday, it was a bloody day in Dhaka, the capital city of Bangladesh, again. This is the 6th incident since February this year that the Islamic terrorists attacked the bloggers. Writers, and now the publishers in front of thousands of people in broad daylight. Before they used to attack in the dark. Now the extent of impunity is so great that they attack us in the broad daylight in front of thousands of people, or even inside the residences or offices of the writers and the publishers. So far, they killed 5 bloggers, writers, and publishers this year and wounded many. My husband, Dr. Avijit Rai, and I were hacked in the middle of the crowded street in Dhaka on February 26th while we were visiting our homeland for a book signing event. Though I survived with 4 head wounds and a sliced off thumb, Avijit was not that lucky. He died in the hospital. Then a month later, they hunted down the writer, blogger Ananta Das, who used to work with us, in the broad daylight on his way to work in the morning. They killed blogger Washikur Rahman Babu in the street next. Then they did not even hesitate to appear in blogger Niloy's house and hacked him to death in front of his partner. But why stopping at the writers only when these machete-wielding assailants know the Bangladeshi government will stay silent no matter what they do? So now, this time, their targets were the 2 publishers who dared to publish the books of these writers on free thoughts, secularism, and freedom of speech, and also many other topics. The situation is dire. These bloody days are becoming a norm. Hacking the people with a voice is becoming a monthly chore for the Islamic terrorists. This weekend, they managed to kill publisher Faisal Arafin Dipan, owner of Jagriti Publishers. His fault? He published 2 of Avijit Roy's book. The other publisher, Ahmed Rashid Tutul, owner of Shuddashar, got lucky and survived multiple machete stabs inside his office. Writer and blogger Ranodipam Bushu and poet Tariq Rahim were with Tutul in his office at that time. Both of them were injured. Tariq Rahim's situation is still critical. He's still fighting for his life in the hospital with multiple stabs and a bullet stuck in his abdomen area. We know they will come back for Ahmed Rashid Tutul again. I just talked to his wife right before this event. Quite understandably, she's not feeling safe with their 2 little daughters while Tutul has lost his life. Tutul has lost his hearing because of the attacks in his neck, shoulder, and on his face. You'll make a mistake if you think we are facing attacks only from these religious fundamentalist killers. To make it even better, our own government has implemented and amended the so-called Information and Communication Technology Act. This ICT Act outlaws any publications or broadcasts or websites that are fake and obscene and communications that causes to hurt or may hurt religious belief. You can tell these are all very vague terms. They're very hard to be defined. The new amended ICT Act has made the criticism of religion on internet punishable with up to 14 years of imprisonment. And yes, the Bangladeshi government has arrested quite a few people based on this act. You would think they must have arrested the killers of those bloggers, right? No, they instead arrested some of the bloggers under this act for hurting religious feeling in their writings. One of the journalists was arrested and harassed a few weeks ago for so-called embarrassment to one of the ministers of the current government. Bangladeshi government stayed completely quiet after the first 3 murders this year. And then when they were forced to say something after the 4th murder, they instead told us to be careful about what we write. They have openly said that they were walking a fine line because of the electoral politics. They cannot risk their alliance with the religious groups by supporting the secular writers of the country. None of these real killers have been captured or tried yet, by the government or the judiciary system. A few have been captured, but we haven't seen them tried yet. Some of them even got out on bails. When some of these bloggers went to the police to notify about their threats from these terrorists, they decided to remain silent and inactive. Some of them even were advised to leave the country if they didn't feel safe. They're not ashamed or hesitated to provide indirect support to the killers this way. We are living in a country right now where the bloggers, writers, journalists do not feel safe to express their views anymore. I'm pleading to the international community to pay attention before it gets completely out of control, like some of the other countries we just heard about. These brave journalists, writers, bloggers, publishers in Bangladesh love their country and want to make a difference in their own homeland. They're out along the streets in Dhaka and in many other places in Bangladesh today as we are speaking to protest these murders and the impunity and the inaction of the Bangladeshi government. We have been continuing our work knowing the threats. We are asking the international community to come forward to help us save our free voice, freedom of expression, and a healthy secular society. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rafda Bona Ahmed. The United Nations and to the international community, because we're not talking about just something that happened, but something that is happening now and that deserves attention and action. Our next speaker is Mr. Veran Matic from Serbia. He is from B9